Hi, everyone. Welcome into the It's Official podcast, created by Jeff Siegel, proudly hosted by Jeremy Plonk. It's the holiday edition. Merry Christmas to all out there and those celebrating. Happy Hanukkah and happy holidays as we wrap up the 2025 season. Here on the podcast, each and every Tuesday, we take a look at 5 hot topics in horse racing, and we start off with the horse who got us most excited last week with the annual Goosebump Award. Our weekly award started this year. Jeff Siegel said, I want to talk about the horse who gets us most excited, gets the hair standing up on our arms, gets the goosebumps going. Well, we've got a good one for you this week. A horse who not only set a course record at Gulfstream Park last weekend, but Wolfie's Dynagos set a North American record for 1 1/8 on the turf, and he did it the hard way on the front end. Here's Wolfie's Dynagos winning the Fort Lauderdale, last week's Goosebump Award winner, here on the podcast.
He's about to ask him to kick for the money through 3/4 and 109 flat. Off the turn and the stretch drive. Rain shaking at Wolfie. Wolfie's Dynagos has to hold off Cugino, who's off cover and charging hard. 1/8 of a mile to go. Wolfie's Dynagos pins his ears and tries to turn back and on running Cugino. Wolfie's Dynagos is still there. Wolfie's Dynagos 1 1/8 down the road in the Fort Lauderdale. He wins by a length. Cugino with the no excuse trip. He was second. Up for third was Beach Gold. Then chasing the crown at 143 and 2.
43 and 2 North American record, specifically 143.42 for 1 1/8 on the turf. Congrats to this just outstanding 7-year-old veteran, as good as he ever was for trainer Brian Lynch. Lynch had won the race with Heart to Heart in the past, one of his top turf horses he's had throughout his career. And now Wolfie's Dynagos is going to be in that kind of conversation. But this is a horse who's new to the barn for Brian Lynch, formerly with Jonathan Thomas. Lynch took over the training of this one before the River City, got a big win on the turf in that one, and now doubles up with the Pegasus World Cup prep here in the Fort Lauderdale. Wolfie's Dynagos has won 2 in a row on the grass now. He's won 7 times on the turf overall. He seemed like a horse who was destined for synthetics. He had won 5 of 8 on the synthetics, and with Turfway having the synthetics championships last weekend, you kind of thought, at least I did, I'm thinking Wolfie's Dynagos might not be in the right spot running in the Fort Lauderdale. So much for what we knew. Set a world record for 1 1/8 on the turf, North American record. Wolfie's Dynagos. Synthetic turf doesn't matter right now. He's really, really good here at the end of his 7-year-old year. Irad Ortiz had the winning ride. Maybe we'll see this one in the Pegasus World Cup turf coming up at the end of January. Goosebump Award winner, Wolfie's Dynagos, and a big effort from Cugino, who ran his heart out in second. When I hit the wire, I thought, boy, Wolfie's Dynagos really ran his race because Cugino brought his A game, and it wasn't good enough to get to him. Then when they stopped the clock, you understand why. Huge effort. Now, the track, certainly the course played fast on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Speed Figure Makers only gave him 100 Wolfie's Dynagos, but he's been in that career 90 range for much of his career. So still probably a career best effort. The course set up, obviously, the fast time, but nonetheless, he was able to deliver it with that course record. Wolfie's Dynagos, Goosebump Award winner here for this week. Let's go to our second topic now. It's kind of a little bit of a follow-up to what we were talking about last week. We asked last week, are you not impressed with the 2-year-old crop right now? And after a couple more stakes races this past weekend, the question just kind of gets re-upped. Are you still not impressed? We had the Gun Runner Stakes last week at Fairgrounds, the Springboard Mile at Remington Park. Now, since Ted Naffey ran off his second Grade 1 win when he took down the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, third Grade 1 win actually for Ted Naffey, when he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, we've had a series of stakes races post-Breeders' Cup that we were looking for somebody to really step forward and run a big race. Did we find it this past weekend at Fairgrounds or Remington? I'll let you be the judge, but I sure didn't see it. Let's go back to the Fairgrounds. Gun Runner Stakes, the start of the Louisiana Derby Series. Let's take a look at the Gun Runner Stakes, a race won by Chip Honcho for Steve Asmussen.
As they come toward the top of the stretch. And then comes Quality Mischief with on the inside as they straighten away now. Liberty National, who's trying to launch a bid. They straighten away after 3/4 in 1 minute 10.98 seconds. Crown the Buckeye, a furlong away from finishing them off with Jareth Ludberry. Crown the Buckeye as a 3-length leader as they come down toward the final 16th from Chip Poncho. Liberty National finishing up well toward the inside. Quality Mischief also trying to join these at the finish. It's Crown the Buckeye. Crown the Buckeye near home. Chip Poncho on the outside getting up. Chip Poncho! Chip Poncho has won it in the final strides in the Gun Runners.
They all staggered home in this one. The horse on the lead, the Ohio bred by Yalpon, almost stole it. Crowned the Buckeye, taking on open company for the first time. But the Mike Maker trainee kind of came back to him a bit at the end. Chip Honcho got the victory, but he looked like he was all in. All his chips were in at the top of the stretch. And again, the leader just kind of came back to him. The closers, like Liberty National, really didn't do enough in here. They came home slow in this race. Chip Honcho, a horse who's had a nice record, 3 starts, now 2 wins, a runner-up in the debut at Keeneland behind Dr. Kapoor, who's a nice one for the Ramseys. But Chip Honcho, to me, a horse by Connect out of a Magician mare, didn't finish up in this race that makes you think that he's a major factor towards the Louisiana Derby later in the year. Chip Honcho, the winner in here. Mesquite didn't fire with much in this particular spot. This is a race that really, to me, just didn't advance anybody forward. Liberty National had been so impressive, rallying to win the debut at Churchill and opening up by 4 in the end in that one. Not a lot in this race, though, I don't think, on the finish up in this particular spot. We'll see these horses back in that Louisiana Derby series. You got the LeCompte, you got the Risen Star locally before they go the mile and 3/16 in the Louisiana Derby. Not very impressed by the group here coming out of this race. And when you look at this year's Gun Runner Stakes, most of these horses coming out of the maiden ranks, 5 of the 7 entered, or 6 of the 8 entered were horses who ran in maiden races last time, including 5 of the 7 that actually made the starting gate after the scratch of Arabia Wild. So Crown the Buckeye, the fact that the Ohio bred almost took them wire to wire in there kind of makes you worried a little bit. And the fact that they all finished in a clump, right? All those top performers of top 4 in this race all ran within a length. 26-30 the final 4th quarter, 7:18 the final, or 7:48 the final 16th of a mile. Came home very slow. They finished in a clump. That's usually a sign of a race that's not that great. Now, let's go to Remington Park on Saturday night, where it was Springboard Mile night there. Again, Mike Maker almost pulled off the upset on the front end with the horse in the Louisiana race, that being Crown the Buckeye, the Ohio bred. Maker had the favorite in the Springboard Mile, a New York bred coming out of races at Finger Lakes. So horses who were, big performers at fairgrounds and here at Remington Park were horses coming out of Mahoning Valley and Finger Lakes for Mike Maker. But it wasn't the runner-up in here who got it done in the Springboard Mile, that being Arctic Beast and the favorite. He was second best in here. It looked like a race that could be taken wire to wire, and it was. We just didn't predict it would be Express Kid.
Express Kid still shows the way. Arctic Beast now moves into second, 2.5 back. Western Man is third. Here's Big Apple Patrick fourth, about 5 from the front. Way beyond is a very wide fifth. Royal American coming up the rail. Could be heard from with a quarter mile to go in the Springboard Mile. Express Kid has been out front throughout under Alvarez and has opened it up by 3. Arctic Beast has sights set. Royal American coming on third now. Western Man and Big Apple Patrick. Final furlong. Express Kid living the dream here. Up by 4. Arctic Beast not cutting it to the margin. Express Kid has escaped. Express Kid will take the Springboard Mile in 2025 in a huge upset.
So in the Springboard Mile, you look at Express Kid, a horse who was coming out of a Lowndes Company at Remington on the turf. He had been 2 for 4 through his career, but lost big time in the Clever Trevor, the local prep. He was runner-up in the Prairie Meadows freshman. You didn't expect this $2,000 2-year-old purchase by Bodie Express to make the front in this race. But again, the race, when you handicap the Springboard Mile, was very light on brisk late pace figures. It looked like a race that could be won wire to wire. That's why I thought that the favorite was going to be awfully tough in there, Arctic Beast, because he had what looked to be sprint speed from the rail, but he didn't go to the lead. He settled a little more under Ricardo Santana, tried to make that rally, but just second best. He wasn't good enough here to catch Express Kid. Wade Rarick will have Express Kid, probably keep him in this part of the country, maybe give him a shot at Oaklawn. A lot of times we see horses out of the Springboard Mile go towards the Smarty Jones or the first race, the Southwest, something like that, along the Arkansas Derby series. We'll see where they end up with Express Kid, winner of the Springboard Mile. 34-1 upset here, more than a $70 mutual. Just doesn't give you the feel in here that this is going to be a major player towards the Triple Crown Trail. Arctic Beast, the runner-up, was always kind of considered maybe a miler at most by Yalpon, a sprint, definitely a top-notch sprinter. Spice Runner, the horse who won the Iroquois for Steve Asmussen, just hasn't developed past September. He's regressed in his recent starts. So a Springboard Mile this year, if you're going to get a horse in here from the Springboard Mile, it's going to go long on the trail. we're going to have to find them because right now it doesn't look like this race is going to stretch anybody out to be major Arkansas Derby type threats in 2026. That's a look at the Fairgrounds and Remington Park results. And as we asked, at the top of this topic, are you still not impressed? Well, let's take a look at the horses that we've got in recent weeks who have won stakes races on the 3-year-old trail to be. These are key 2-year-old stakes winners with Kentucky Derby qualifying points. These are all the Kentucky Derby qualifying points races and their winners. 10 points to all those winners on the top spot. 30 points went to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, of course, with Ted Naffy. But you look since that Breeders' Cup from the top, the Springboard Mile, the Gun Runner, the Low South Futurity, the Remsen, the Kentucky Jockey Club. Further Ado kind of took a little bit of a step back, but still won. Paladin won, but didn't overwhelm in the Remsen. He might be the best of this group. If you told me which one of these last 5 winners since Ted Naffy won the Breeders' Cup, between Further Ado, Paladin, Litmus Test, Chip Honcho, and Express Kid this past weekend, which one of those 5 feel more like Derby horses? Paladin, I think for sure. Renegade, the runner-up in the Remsen, would also be in that category. So maybe the Remsen's the strongest of this group. Further Ado, there's still a chance for him to be pretty darn good. Remember, he won that maiden race at Keeneland, Lowndes race, I should say, by 20 lengths. So we know he's got some talent about him in Further Ado. As for some of the other horses, we'll be interested to see Incredible back after winning the Street Sense, kind of trying to take that sovereignty route this year. We'll see where he ends up during the course of his 3-year-old season. Napoleon Solo, the very impressive winner of the Champagne, who skipped the Breeders' Cup to go towards a 3-year-old campaign. Not sure really where that Champagne performance came from Napoleon Solo, but it was so good that you really have to respect it. Intrepido was really good in the American Pharoah, not quite as good in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's kind of one of those where some of his next races obviously are going to tell more of the tale of what his trajectory could be. We'll talk more about the 3-year-olds when the Countdown to the Crown series returns. My written scouting report each week. It'll be the 21st season for the Countdown to the Crown scouting report season. And this year it'll be exclusively on Substack. So you can go to countdowntothecrown.com, click there and get the link to take you to the Substack and sign up for the free Substack, which is an email publishing service. You get it sent directly to your email inbox. But I'll have Countdown to the Crown for you beginning the first Friday of the new year, which this year will be January 2nd. So we are right around the corner, about 2 weeks away from debuting Countdown to the Crown Season 21. And I will give you each and every week the scouting report on the 3-year-olds leading up and through the Triple Crown races. But are we impressed by what we've seen in recent weeks? Still not, unfortunately, as we talk about these 2-year-olds about to turn 3. Next topic this week, we're going to have a little fun for the holidays. Of course, you remember the old animated Christmas special with the Heat Miser and Snow Miser, Year Without a Santa Claus. We're going to talk about some Heat Misers in 2025, a couple guys that you want to keep an eye on what they did in terms of some major statistics, who was hot. We'll also talk about some Snow Misers coming up in just a minute, but take a look at who I think are the Heat Misers of 2025. Man, did you follow these guys and make a bundle off of them? How about Ben Curtis, the jockey Ben Curtis, the number 1 Heat Miser for me in 2025. Check it out. In graded stakes races last year, he won 8 of 45, 18%. That doesn't sound so bad. But how about a $4.84 ROI with an average winner of 26 to 1? An average winner of 26 to 1 for every dollar you bet, you got $4.84 back in graded stakes when you back Ben Curtis. He won with I'd Rather Be Blessed at Fairgrounds, paid $174. You say, well, that skewed the number. Well, how about $88 on Magnitude when he won on the Fairgrounds Risen Star? $86 at Sam Houston aboard Recharge. $28 on Simply in Front at Keeneland. $22 aboard Think Big at Keeneland. And he also added graded stakes winners at $16, $11, and $6. His 8 wins in graded stakes, 7 of them paid $11 or more. 3 of them paid $86 plus. Ben Curtis in graded stakes races in 2025. You, sir, were the Heat Miser. Also really a good guy to follow last year in the stakes races was Juan Hernandez, jockey in Southern California. How about this? He won 36 races with favorites in stakes races. 61% wins when he rode in stakes races aboard favorites. Juan Hernandez, well delivered. When he was on the right horse, he got you home. 79% of the favorites that Juan Hernandez rode in stakes races last year finished in the exacta. Now, you might say he rides in Southern California and his numbers for Bob Baffert or everything. He went 23 for 36 riding for Bob Baffert in stakes races with favorites. but he went 12 for 21 with others, scoring well over 50% with his favorites. You put Juan Hernandez on the best horse in a stakes race in Southern California, not only did he deliver, but he delivered far above others and expectations. Two big heat misers last year in stakes company, jockey Ben Curtis and jockey Juan Hernandez. Just some tremendous numbers there. How about that series of long shots for Ben Curtis? Now the other side of it, you've got the heat misers. What about the snow misers? Some cold numbers here. We went jockeys for the heat miser category. As we talk about the snow misers of 2025, let's talk about some trainers in here in stakes company. And some names that you'll know. Antonio Sano, Rick Dutrow, Doug O'Neill. Kentucky Derby winners, Dutrow and O'Neill amongst those. Get a load of these cold stats for 2025. Antonio Sano, 0 for 28 in stakes races. The largest 0 for in the country in stakes races last year in 2025 belonged to Antonio Sano. Based at Gulfstream, but not afraid to ship. We saw him in New York and around the country, as you often do with Sano. But no luck, 0 for 28 in stakes company. How about Rick Dutrow on the comeback? Captain Cook won the Withers. That's the good news. That's his only stakes winner from 25 starters this year. 1 for 25 in stakes company for Rick Dutrow as his comeback tour continues. And then Doug O'Neill. What a good January he had. 2 stakes wins during the month of January. After January, how about 2 for 81 in stakes company for Doug O'Neill after January? 4 for 94 on the year. He did go 2 for 13 in the month of January. But Doug O'Neill's stakes horses, 2 for 81 after January. We still got a couple more stakes races left in the year in Southern California, of course, with Sunday's opening weekend starting, the late start to the Santa Anita meet. Again, a reminder that Santa Anita's opening day was scheduled for Friday, December 26th, traditional day after Christmas, but due to weather, they've pushed that back to Sunday. So maybe O'Neill can notch some stakes luck here at the end of the calendar year, but he certainly has not had a good year this year. So our 3 snow misers, the cold trainers, if you will, in stakes company, Antonio Sano, Rick Dutrow, and Doug O'Neill, and not names you would expect to see. Let's hope they have better seasons in 2026. Let's wrap up as we usually do each week here on the podcast with our stars of tomorrow. These are the horses coming out of maiden or allowance races, maybe some horses that we're going to look forward to in some big stakes races to come. And that could be for Golden Tempo. Saturday at the fairgrounds, the Gunrunner Stakes was the big race on the card for the 2-year-olds, but on the undercard, there were a couple nice winners on the undercard program, including the Cherie DeVoe train Golden Tempo. Keep a look on this one. This was a debut, last of 10 to first in 110 and 3, going 6 furlongs. Let's take a look at the winner at Fairgrounds, Golden Tempo, one to watch towards the Louisiana Derby.
Golden Tempo has dropped back to last. The first quarter was 22.18 seconds. Coronado is gearing up now for Luis Saez. It's Coronado with on the outside. Here comes this bid now by Fancy Fairlane as these maiden juveniles straighten past the quarter pole. And Obelisk is charging hard. Half mile 45.90 seconds with the rail for Declan Cannon. It is Fancy Fairlane who's opened up a 5-length lead with 1 furlong to go. Obelisk continues to come hard with on the outside. Golden Tempo also running on. Coronado, Vibe has dropped back. They're close to home, and here comes Golden Tempo for Jose Ortiz. Golden Tempo with a first out success. Track Fancy Fairlane down. Obelisk was right there too, and then next across Hot Days Ahead with Opt-in.
Big
Good-looking rally, good-looking gallop out there. One to watch for Cherie DeVoe, Golden Tempo. Last to first in a 6-furlong sprint. Not an easy way to go in the career debut. Look forward to seeing this one. Certainly longer distances will not be a problem. This one's by Curlin out of the Bernardini mare Karumba. The dam won the grade 3 top flight for Shug McGahee. All Phipps on the dam side of this pedigree. Some of those great, black and cherry silks pedigrees that you see up and down the line. So a lot to like about this star of tomorrow, Golden Tempo, the farther that he goes. This is one of the Fairground series I think you're going to want to keep an eye on. Cherie DeVoe, the trainer there, our star of tomorrow. Let's wrap up this week's podcast and review the 5 topics here as we head into the Christmas holiday. This week's Goosebump Award winner was Woofy's Dynago, set a North American record 143.42 in winning the Fort Lauderdale Stakes last Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Are you still not impressed? I haven't been with the 2-year-olds about to turn 3 in stakes company since the Breeders' Cup. Springboard Mile went to 34-1. Wade Rarick trainee Express Kid. Gunrunner Stakes for Chip Honcho, Steve Asmussen in a blanket finish that came home slow. Can't be overly impressed by Chip Honcho winning the Gunrunner Stakes. As for our Heat Misers in 2025, who had some hot stats you should know about, Ben Curtis in graded stakes with his ridiculous run of long shot winners, and Juan Hernandez, who delivered exceptionally well when riding the favorites in stakes races throughout the course of 2025. As for the Snow Misers and stakes company, some trainers who were ice cold: Antonio Sano, Rick Dutrow, Doug O'Neill, all had rough years in 2025 in the stakes ranks. And we wrap things up with our star of tomorrow, Golden Tempo. Good-looking curling debut colt. Went from last to first at Fairgrounds to win a maiden special for trainer Cherie DeVille. Those 5 topics are now official because our handicapper emeritus and creator of this show, Jeff Siegel, and I say so. That's the way we invented the game. That's the way we play it, and we'll continue to do so each and every week. We've got another show left here in 2025. We'll be back with you next week as the December 30th edition will wrap up the 2025 campaign for us. We hope to see you then. Between now and then, enjoy the Christmas holiday. Scott Shapiro and I will be back on Friday as we preview some weekend stakes races. We'll talk about some stakes races on the First Call podcast. We'll preview 2 stakes races on Saturday at Gulfstream and 6 stakes races on Sunday on the rescheduled opening day at Santa Anita. So be sure to join us on Friday for that. On behalf of everybody with First Bet and Express Bet, and from my family to yours, Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll talk to you in a few days.